The entire Apex Legends meta has been shaken with the new Season 13 changes, and while professional teams are still trying it out in Ranked and ALGS, its effects have trickled down even to the public matches. Are these team compositions the difference you need to win more games in Apex? Let's take a look at the 5 legends you need to be playing in Season 13. Let's start off this list with the potentially most unexpected legend to become meta this season, namely Mad Maggie. Maggie hasn't really seen much play ever since she was released, with her pick rate steadily declining as the Apex community really didn't see much use for her. However, professional team and Predator grinders, Furia, who had the #1 Predator in the previous rank split, has been using Maggie more and more, both in Ranked and in scrims, and TSM have been playing around with her, suggesting that NA teams will soon follow suit. These are by no means the first teams to bring this aggressive legend into the Apex arena, with Team Empire playing with great results in the Apex Legends Pro League playoffs just back in the end of June. But enough about the history, what's so great about Mad Maggie? Even though her kit leans towards the aggressive side, Maggie is versatile and useful in almost all situations. Her passive highlights enemies that you're dealing damage to, which allows you to keep your sights locked on them even through smoke or other visual obstructions, and it has a second feature which allows you to wield shotguns but still move around in your normal holstered speed, making Maggie's fast strafes lethal to play against in the battlefield and giving her the upper hand in shotgun duels. Her tactical riot drill can be stuck against walls up to 12 meters deep and deals up to 160 damage per person, causing 4 damage on every tick. This also sticks to bubbles and forces enemies out of their cover, which might be enough to catch them off guard and get an opening. The drill also combines with your passive and gives you temporary wall hacks on the enemies that are hit by your drill's flames. Finally, her ultimate Wrecking Ball throws a ball in front of her which tumbles forward and bounces around on walls and enemies, stunning any enemy nearby once it explodes. The ball also drops small blue pods that increase the user's movement speed by 30%. The Wrecking Ball is a great tool to quickly engage enemy teams, but serves a secondary purpose of discombobulating your enemies if they're all holed up in a small room. If thrown inside, the Wrecking Ball would bounce around, stunning and tossing around enemies and making it impossible to move around, all while being exposed to your team's gunfire. In short, Maggie's kit is perfect for countering defensive or passive teams, as well as staying aggressive in the Apex arena. While she's still a sleeper pick and hasn't seen too much of an uptick in her pick rate yet, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more players running her in the coming weeks. Maggie is usually coupled with a Seer, which conveniently is the second legend on this list. Just like Maggie, Seer has been flying low on the radar since its release all the way back in Season 10, but the constant ratting and overall passive playstyles on Stormpoint has brought him back into rotation, with certain professional teams such as Guild using him to great results. Speaking of great results, it would mean a lot if you hit the like button on the video so it would get great results. Seer's passive allows him to scan enemies through walls within 75 meters as long as he aims down his sights. He can also listen to their heartbeats to hear approximately how much health they have left. While the length of his passive is decent, it's not very girthy. If you want to accurately scan for enemies, you need to run your aim across any location that they might be hiding, since it's only accurate in a 55-degree cone. With that in mind, players' game sense is improving every single day, and it's becoming more and more viable to play Seer as players know where to scan for enemies, especially in the common rat or ambush spots. His tactical goes hand in hand and summons a cone of micro drones to emit a delayed blast that goes through walls, interrupting and revealing enemies. This cone activates after 1.4 seconds, it's 75 meters long, so the same as his passive, and 8 meters wide. When it activates, the enemies inside of the cone will have their current actions, such as revives or healing items, interrupted, receive a 1.25 second silence which prevents them from using legend abilities, and reveal the target to the Seer's entire squad for 8 seconds, in addition to the health bar being visible over their head for the duration of the reveal. You can see how his tactical, in addition to Maggie's drill, is just incredibly oppressive. When played well, Seer won't allow a team to back off and heal, or even to play cover, especially in combination with Maggie's abilities. Seer's ultimate adds even more pressure to the enemy. Exhibit spawns a sphere with a diameter of 65 meters, revealing any enemies inside of it to Seer and his teammates. While not as accurate as his tactical micro drones, it gives away any movement from the enemy team and will warn you if a third party is rolling up. Keep in mind that Seer's ultimate only scans enemies that are running, moving, or shooting, so if someone is midair, standing still, or crouch walking, they won't appear in the exhibit. But at the end of the day, knowledge is power, and entire fights are won by reading the enemy team and punishing any mistakes they might be making. The ability to deny a revive or Phoenix kit with a swift Seer tactical is enough to close out a fight, and even though Seer started seeing more play in Stormpoint, I'm sure he'll be a lot more popular now that World's Edge is back in rotation. Unlike Maggie, we're already seeing Seer's pick rate slowly slowly increasing, and odds are it will continue climbing in the near future. Next up is a legend that I've been swearing off for the better part of a year, but is actually making a comeback, namely Pathfinder. Pathfinder just loses out to other legends in most areas, including rotations and overall kit ability, but for me the final nail in the coffin was his duel ability, as he struggles in most 1v1s due to his large and easy to shoot hitbox. His return comes down to a combination of Valkyrie's ultimate nerfs, World's Edge coming back, and top tier players trying him out and still finding success with him despite his flaws. At the end of the day, he's one of the best flankers in the game as long as he doesn't overcommit to a 1v1 or more, and his ultimate allows the team to consistently rotate fast and take high grounds that were otherwise just not possible to get, with even more versatility than Valkyrie. His passive allows Pathfinder to scan survey beacons to see where the next zone pulls, and on top of that reduces his ultimate zipline gun's cooldown by 10 seconds every time a survey beacon is scanned, which can turn your zipline's cooldown from 120 to 80 seconds. Successfully scanning a survey beacon also fully charges Pathfinder's ultimate, allowing you to place 2 ziplines in a row. His tactical, which allows Pathfinder to stay mobile, is his grapple hook. This grapple allows you to get to out of reach places quickly, either vertically or horizontally, and has a very high skill ceiling. It has a variable cooldown between 10 to 30 seconds depending on how far you grapple, and as such can be used for quick short grapples that you cancel with crouch to quickly jump between cover and flank enemy teams, but still give you the ability to retreat back if you take too much focus, unlike most legends whose retreat abilities take over 20 seconds to recharge. Since you want to avoid taking duels as a Pathfinder, this comes down to great game sense, but it is very rewarding as long as you provide pressure without getting punished yourself. His zipline also puts him on the map, allowing for some very speedy rotates on par with Valkyrie's ultimate. While he can't enter skydive, the zipline allows to cross big open areas and taking high grounds, as well as giving him the option of setting up endgames with several ziplines to control entire large high ground areas. This is especially useful for rotating early into the final zone, which you scan with your passive, and then setting up around the final ring to give yourself the best odds of winning. As opposed to the previous legends on this list, Pathfinder has been seeing decent play across the board, but his pick rate has been climbing recently, most notably in the higher tier and predator lobbies. That being said, Valkyrie, while a bit riskier than before her nerf, is still a viable pick, especially when rotating around maps such as World's Edge, which is divided by large cliffs that cannot be crossed without flying. Her ultimate also gives you a lot of information to make split-second calls and take the best position, even if you're playing from behind. Her passive VTOL jet allows the Valkyrie to do advanced movement, bouncing around or moving faster, as well as climbing vertically, giving Valkyrie a chance to work high grounds for off angles, much like Pathfinder. She can also scan beacons for information thanks to the recon passive. It's especially useful coming into the final 6th ring, as she can fly straight up into the air and stay for as long as possible, while the rest of the teams in the lobby battle it out on the ground. Her tactical missile swarm is useful for poking enemy teams, laying down a little bit of damage, or pressuring an enemy out of cover, as a rocket stun the affected enemy and deal 25 damage for the first rocket hit, and then 3 more for every consecutive rocket. And finally, her ultimate, as previously mentioned, still has the best rotational ability in the game, allowing Valkyrie and her teammates to create a balloon out of thin air and rotate hundreds of meters away, getting a vantage point and highlighting enemies as they are flying in to find a great spot to land. Despite her nerf, Valkyrie is still great for playing from behind, as you can simply fly above teams that are holding out of zone and take a great spot with minimal risk. Also, before we go into the last legend on this list, I recently asked you guys to subscribe, as only 30% watching my videos actually are subscribed, and thank you. But now it's actually 16%, which is great because that means more people are watching the videos. But if you guys would subscribe, that'd be awesome. On to number 5, we have Caustic. He's worth picking up again, as we've been seeing a surge of Watson teams in competitive, in ranked, and public lobbies, but I am still under the understanding that Caustic is better at bunkering than Watson is, especially on World's Edge. He is more versatile in and out of buildings, and is super strong inside of buildings. A bunkered up Caustic's building is so difficult to push that most teams just simply avoid it, and if you are Caustic with both your teammates knocked, you could actually just pop your traps, throw your ultimate on the ground, and revive them both within the smoke, without the enemy team having a single chance to push in and clean it up. His passive allows him to see through his own and enemies' Nox gas, and also highlights enemies inside of his own gas. He also has a fortified passive, which means that he takes 15% less damage from bullets, and also doesn't get slowed down by damage. His tactical, the gas barrels, are 6 barrels that can be placed around the map, usually to hold down an area or as a quick trap to deal tickle damage and alert you of someone coming your way. If an enemy walks into the trap, it will trigger and emit a gas cloud that deals 5 damage per tick, slows, and briefly stuns the enemy. You can also trigger a trap yourself by shooting it. The trap stays forever unless destroyed and will emit a gas cloud for 11 seconds once it's been activated. A triggered trap has 150 health and can be destroyed, but if it is destroyed, the gas will still linger for an additional 2 seconds. The The barrels are great as makeshift covers and can be used to block doors to make it impossible to push a Kha'Zix team. As previously mentioned, the barrels can also be combined with Kha'Zix ultimate to cover an entire room in gas, making it impossible to push you even with digital threats and allowing you to stall the fight out until a third party comes around to clean it up. All these 5 legends are viable and will help you win more games for the rest of this season. If you're interested in learning how to play these specific legends, I have made guides for every single one, and you can click the playlist on the screen to get started. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.